Porsche 911 Cabriolet has improved in huge measures with this 992.2 generation model, with the option of hybrid tech and a more digitalised cabin. As before, the hood is a brilliantly engineered piece of kit, and the chassis dynamics are better than ever. It's getting pricey though.
Porsche's 911 Carrera Cabriolet is still a very desirable car indeed. Here we're going to look at the 992.2 version. The Porsche 911 is more than just a car, it's a legend, and as such it carries a huge weight of provenance. Obscure design cues speak volubly, individual colours have historical resonance. It's something to obsess over. Thing is though, for some people it's just a car, a pretty and fast car, but it's just a car nevertheless. Real 911 buyers tend to sniff at people who think like that, and they also tend to sniff at cabriolet variants, denigrating those who choose them as not getting the whole 911 thing. But so good is the latest 992.2 generation car that perhaps those purists are painting themselves into a corner. If owner experience and enjoyment are key to owning a sports car, who's to deny that 911 Cabriolet customers aren't actually one step ahead of the obsessives? Maybe, just maybe, this is the most complete breed of 911 we've ever seen, a step ahead of segment rivals that you can check out in more detail on the Car and Driving app. To find out more about this car though, you'll need, as usual, the industry's most comprehensive review, and that's the Car and Driving road test. There is a weight penalty around 70 kilos for choosing the Cabriolet body shape over the coupe, but that is well compensated for by the extra power on offer from the various versions of the twin-turbo 3-litre flat 6 available with this 992.2 series model. The base Carrera version, also offered with a manual gearbox in 911T form, gets a power upgrade from 385 to 394 PS, which means 62 miles an hour takes just 4.1 seconds. The 480 PS Carrera S improves that figure to 3.7 seconds. There's a big step up in power though if you choose the GTS variant that we're trying here. This T hybrid model's output is now 541 PS, 61 PS more than the original unelectrified 992 series GTS model we tried in 2023 could manage, with 62 miles an hour achievable in 3 seconds flat or 3.1 seconds in this Cabriolet version. And that's on the way to 194 miles an hour. Why you'd now still pay more for a 911 Turbo is difficult to fathom. As before, GTS customers get a choice of rear-driven or four-wheel drive formats. Try the rear-driven version with its now wider rear tyres before you finally make up your mind. We have the Carrera 4 version here. All that speed comes from a very different kind of engine. It's still a Boxer flat 6 of course, but it's now 3.6 litres in size, up from 3 litres, and now uses just one turbocharger instead of two. That's because the turbo is now aided by a 54 PS electric motor energised by a 1.9 kilowatt hour 216 cell battery weighing just 27 kilos. The end result is that everything is even more instant as the electric turbo spins up to 120,000 RPM, to the accompaniment of a rather pleasing selection of gurgles and whistles and whines. The 400-volt hybrid tech energises all kinds of drive systems, including the starter, the alternator, the nose lift setup, and an optional electro-hydraulic roll stabilisation PDCC setup that you'll probably want to pay extra for. All 911s get the same drive modes. There are wet, normal, sport and sport plus options with a red button in the middle of the rotary selector dial, which gives you 20 seconds of all-out power for those occasions when the rapidly travelling M3 or C63 in front of you is contriving to hold you up a bit. Sport Plus mode delivers a satisfyingly loud sports exhaust flare when you let the flat 6 out back rev out to 7,500 RPM. There are now bigger brakes and a revised PASM adaptive damping system is standard, as is PTV, Porsche Torque Vectoring, for better cornering traction. There's also rear axle steering to aid cornering stability and to usefully reduce the turning circle at parking speeds too by 0.5 metre to 10.6 metres, and that's something that you'll really appreciate when you're manoeuvring in packed city streets. As before, there's an adaptive rear spoiler which deploys at 56 miles an hour into the first of 3 positions to aim to keep the rear of the car pinned down to the tarmac. Also, as before, no super sports car is more usable than this one for those many occasions when you don't want to drive it like a super sports car. And that's helped by the fact that you sit higher than you would do in a rival model, and visibility is much better. A perfect accompaniment to all this is the sweet shifting 8-speed PDK Auto gearbox with its expertly judged ratios and lovely cool metal steering wheel paddle shifters. As for the Cabriolet driving experience, well, it's remarkably serene if you activate this electrically operated windbrake, which keeps buffeting to a minimum. The visual updates made to this 992.2 era 911 Cabriolet are very subtle indeed. We'll get to those in a moment. Otherwise though, from the outside at least, things are very much as they were when we last tested this 992 era model back in 2023. Its elegant silhouette certainly complements the Cabriolet design. You certainly don't get the hunchbacked look of many 911 Cabriolets of the past. It even looks great with the hood up, and that's not something you can say of many Cabriolets. The hood itself is an intriguing piece of equipment. Porsche has never subscribed to the trend for folding hardtops, and this roof incorporates a lightweight magnesium frame. It uses a fabric-skinned composite panel for the upper and rear part of the structure, and it can be raised and lowered at speeds of less than 31 miles an hour. It takes just 12 seconds to raise or lower, and it has a series of metal bows within which maintain its shape when you're traveling at high speeds. You'll get a very effective power-operated windbreaker too. And if you're coming to this car from the older generation pre-2019 era 991 series Cabriolet model, you'll find that the roof folds itself into position more compactly and so takes up less space. We mentioned the 992.2 update model visual changes. Most of those are here at the front, where the redesigned headlamps retain the brand's characteristic 4-point graphic, but now incorporate all the illuminating functions, so there's no need for the previous separated front driving lights. That creates space for larger cooling vents at the front of the car. Intelligent matrix beams, they are now standard too. Low down in the nose section, you can recognize this GTS variant by the 5 vertically arranged active cooling air flaps which feature on each side. It is still a bit smaller than the class norm. The 4,553mm body length is a full 147mm shorter than a rival Mercedes-AMG SL. As before, there's a real purity of form between the large arches that house staggered rim sizes front to rear. The cheapest Carrera Cabriolet features a 19 to 20-inch front to rear wheel size combination. Above base trim though, all 911s get 20-inch rims at the front and 21 inches at the rear. There are more detailed differences at the back, where this redesigned light strip with an integrated arc and Porsche logo is intended to make the tail appear deeper and also to impart a purposeful stance. If you owned the earlier version of this 992 design, you might also notice that the number plate is now positioned higher within this clearly structured rear bumper. This rear grille panel has been redesigned too, with 5 fins per side. As before, there's a retractable spoiler which rises at above 56 miles an hour into the first of 3 positions, which depend on the driving situation and on your chosen drive mode. From back here, you'll also be able to visually determine the 911 model in question's exhaust status. These 2 oval outlets designate the fitment of the brand's sports exhaust. The standard system instead has 2 double tailpipes. Enough of that. We may have had to drill down into the detail to cover the exterior updates to this car, but even someone with a mere passing acquaintance with 911 models will be able to appreciate the changes made to the cabin, which power-operated door handles spring out to allow you to enter. For the first time, the 911 has a fully digital instrument cluster. We'll take a closer look at its many formats in a moment, but even though a rev counter can remain its central format, you might think it a shame that the classic analog tachometer is no more, and that the old starter switch has been replaced by the kind of button that everyone else uses. Otherwise, everything is much as it was before, in an interior that still feels luxurious, contemporary, and nicely understated. As usual in a 911, you sit low and snug, thankful for the faultless ergonomics and the perfect positioning of this thin three-spoke Porsche crested wheel, to which this drive mode dial is now fitted as standard. We mentioned this 12.6-inch curved driver's display, the installation of which opens up the opportunity to show full screen mapping, one of a wide variety of selectable layouts, which also includes a classic format inspired by the traditional 5-tube Porsche dial design with a central tachometer. As before, infotainment is taken care of by this nicely integrated 10.9-inch Porsche Communications Management central screen, but this monitor now offers more customization options for drive modes and for driver assistance systems. Plus, there are lots of new connectivity features too, including video streaming, along with the usual weather and news reports, and also a sport chrono lap timing section. What else? Well, the seats have a wide base cushion that's particularly supportive and feel particularly good if your car has a 14-way or, as a top option, 18-way power adjustment package. These chairs slide back a long way and there are perfectly placed pedals. It's all good. As always in a 911, all-round visibility is of a completely different order to anything you'd find in any other super sports car. The classically distinctive bulges around the headlamps give you a clear idea as to where the front wheels are. That does make car park maneuvering considerably easier than it would be in a, say, a lower slung rival. Slim windscreen pillars mean your front three-quarter view isn't impeded at junctions. In this Cabriolet though, your rear vision isn't quite as good as it would be in the coupe, so you'll be very glad of the rear view camera, or as in this case, the optional surround view camera. And practicality, well, as part of this 992.2 update, Porsche has built a wireless phone charger into this lidded box between the seats, a cooled area which also accommodates a pair of USB-C ports. Otherwise though, cabin storage is somewhat limited, as you would expect it to be in a sports car. The two-part door pockets are still so narrow as to only be any good for the storage of things that you have recently run over, but there is a reasonably sized glove box, and along with ticket clips in the sun visors too. For cups, we'd like to have seen a better solution than this rather ugly single holder inserted instead between the seats, which gets in the way of the electronic handbrake switch. To avoid that, you can pull it out and replace it with the provided insertable cubby compartment. As before, a further pull-out cup holder is hidden away on the passenger side of the dashboard. The 911 has always offered rear seats in a class where rivals often haven't bothered, and it still does. They're not very comfortable though, and as an adult, anything more than a short journey in the back of this Cabriolet model will be even more excruciating, because the seat backs with this body shape are even more upright, all of which means you'll mainly be pressing these rear chairs into service for the carriage of jackets and designer shopping bags. Or kids, of course. If it happens to be your weekend to have the grandchildren, you'll be jolly pleased to find that a child seat will just about fit into the Isofix mountings provided either side of the transmission tunnel. The seat backs split and fold down flat, allowing you to easily carry longer items of luggage instead of golf clubs, for example. Having this extra space for potential bag stowage is important, given that, well, as with any super sports car, trunk space is at a bit of a premium. The mid-engine configuration of Porsche's old 718 Boxster Cabrio model freed up space for a rear boot compartment, but of course, with this twin-turbo 3-litre 6 slung out the back, you don't get that with the 911. Just this flap that rises to reveal an engine plaque and access to various service reservoirs. That means anything that you can't fit inside has to go into this compartment beneath the sculpted bonnet. Now, this front mounted boot will be 132 litres in size, regardless of your chosen 911's rear driven 4-wheel drive hybrid or non-hybrid status. That is a pitiful figure, of course, and it'll be beaten easily by a front-engined rival like an AMG SL. Still, at least this area is quite deep, which means it's large enough to swallow a typical carry-on flight case, perhaps a couple of softer bags, or maybe even the proceeds from a mid-level supermarket excursion. Loading's easy too because the nose is quite low. Tucked into this LED lit space is an emergency warning triangle and a get-you-home puncture repair kit. Ultimately though, you really can't make the most of what's on offer here unless you pay extra for the tailored 911 luggage set. At the time of our test in summer 2025, Cabriolet pricing started from around £114,000 for the 394 PS Carrera variant. For the 911 Carrera T Cabriolet with the same engine, you'll need over £125,000. For the 480 PS Carrera S Cabriolet, budget around £130,000. And for the GTS T Hybrid Cabriolet, you'll need to put around £148,000 aside for the car in rear-driven form. Add about £6,500 more if you want the GTS model with Carrera 4 all-wheel drive. In other words, a car like this one. As for 911 Cabriolet rivals, well, there aren't many left. Some of the cars this 992 era 911 Carrera Cabriolet competed against at its original launch have now vanished from this market segment, like open-top versions of the Mercedes-AMG GT and the Audi R8. As for what remains, well, the Mercedes-AMG SL is in the same kind of pricing ballpark as a 911 Cabriolet. Not quite as focused though. Other than that, there's only the Aston Martin Vantage Roadster, but in terms of price and power output, that Aston is now more of a rival for the 992.2 era 911 Turbo Cabriolet, which hadn't quite been launched at the time of this review. At the other end of the range, if you're looking at a base Carrera Cabriolet and you're prepared to consider something that isn't really a super sports convertible, but which compensates by offering prodigious power, and then close to a 6-figure spend would get you a convertible version of a car like the BMW M4 Competition and the Mercedes-AMG CLE. But there's nothing really quite like a 911 Cabriolet, and if you've come to that conclusion, then you're going to need to know here about standard specs. So let's take a look at that right now. Across the 911 range, the PASM Porsche Adaptive Suspension Management System, this is now standard, and most models also now get rear axle steering. Also now standard are matrix LED headlamps, which feature more than 32,000 light points. Inside, the brand's steering wheel mounted drive mode dial is now standard as well, and as we told you already in the design section, the car now benefits from a fully digital instrument display. There's also comfort access keyless entry, a reversing camera, a front seat heating, cruise control, 2-zone climate control, 4-way adjustable sports seats and an alarm. The base Carrera model has 19 and 20-inch wheels, but all the other models in the range standardise a 20 and 21-inch wheel combination. Whatever variant you choose, all of that still leaves plenty of scope, of course, for paying a small fortune in optional extras. Before you go box ticking on the base Carrera model though, we'd counsel you to first take a look at whether the 911 T Cabriolet that we mentioned earlier on might suit your needs a bit better. This does, after all, come already fitted with key features which would cost extra on a Carrera: sports exhaust, torque vectoring, the larger wheel set and PASM lowered suspension. In addition, there's the brand's Sport Chrono package, including the usual dash top mounted stopwatch, also sports response button on the drive mode dial, the Porsche Track Precision app too, and a tyre temperature display. If you stretch to this GTS variant, you'll also get a heated Alcantara style, race text trimmed GT Sport steering wheel, sport seats plus front chairs, and a 12-speaker 570 watt Bose surround sound system, which is optional further down the range. With all of that taken into account, you're ready for an expensive spell on the Porsche configurator. This test GTS model has some of the items that you'll probably want, like 14-way adjustable adaptive sport seats plus front chairs and a surround view camera system with active parking support. You might also want to look at the desirable 915 watt 13-speaker Burmester high-end surround sound audio upgrade, 18-way adjustable adaptive sport seat plus front chairs, front seat ventilation, night view assist, an ionizer and an HD upgrade for the Matrix LED headlamps. Remember that unless you order your 911 in solid white or black, you are going to be paying Porsche a lot more for your choice of paint colour too. Over £1,700 more in the case of the carmine red metallic finish we have here. Consider all that before you start spending big on aesthetics, as of course is very easily possible. This test car has a bespoke GTS interior package, but of course you can go a great deal further than that, both inside and out. Some of the trimming options though can be somewhat garish, and they won't help your residuals at all. If somehow you still have more to spend, we'd suggest you consider driving stuff. We have adaptive cruise control fitted here, but to go further and get that system functioning with the kind of semi-autonomous drive camera features which are now routinely fitted to luxury cars in this segment, you are going to have to pay extra for Porsche's expensive inner drive package. If you're urban based, the front axle lifting system for easing you over speed humps would be a good idea. The remote park assist arrangement and the power steering plus setup for lighter parking speed wheel turning, that might be a good investment too. If you stretch to this expensive GTS model, then you can also consider the option of Porsche's advanced electro-hydraulic roll stabilization PDCC setup, and you can add a vastly expensive ceramic composite braking system. On to safety. Porsche has never been particularly generous in this regard, but they've had to start building a lot more camera features in as part of this generation to preserve a sensible Euro NCAP safety rating status. There's a warn and brake assist autonomous braking system. This also has distance warning, lane keeping assist, lane departure warning. There's a motorway light assistant. There's a brake recommendation system, and of course there's acoustic speed warning. The Porsche 2X hazard warning setup that advises you in advance about local hazards. Proactive occupant protection that prepares the cabin for an impact if a crash is deemed inevitable. And a wet detector, well, that notifies you when a wet surface is detected. The car also has the optional lane change assist feature too. What about the basic safety stuff? Well, all mainstream 911 models come, of course, with twin front, side and curtain airbags integrated as part of the Porsche side impact protection system. You also get tyre pressure monitoring, that's along with the usual braking aids. And of course, there's the best stability system in the business, PSM, or Porsche Stability Management Traction Control. This includes an extra PSM sport setting, which allows the driver to throw the car about a bit more without intervention, yet keeps a safety net in place if ambition gets the better of your talent. There is also a post-collision braking system too, which will automatically brake the car after you've hit something, and that prevents you from going on and having further impacts. Isofix child seat mounts are fit to both rear seats, but if you want an Isofix mount in the front passenger seat, then you're going to have to pay extra for that. The 911 Cabriolet has long led its class in terms of running cost efficiency, and not much has changed. A base Carrera Cabriolet manages up to 27.5 mpg on the WLTP combined cycle and 234 grams per kilometre of WLTP rated CO2, about the same as the equivalent coupe actually. As a result, the 67 litre fuel tank might easily take you over 500 miles between fill-ups. The 911 Carrera T Cabriolet manages 26.4 mpg and 243 grams per kilometre, and the 911 Carrera S Cabriolet, that records 27.1 mpg and 237 grams per kilometre. If you were hoping that the installation of T-hybrid tech in the GTS model might significantly improve this 911's efficiency figures, then you might be a bit disappointed. Actually, they're not all that much different from those of an ordinary Carrera, and a bit worse probably because of the extra 50 kilos that the T-hybrid system adds to the car's curb weight. The GTS T-hybrid Cabriolet manages bests of 26.6 miles per gallon and 243 grams per kilometre, or 244 grams per kilometre in Carrera 4 form. Figures which are pretty much the same as those of the equivalent coupe. Think in terms of a driving range between fill-ups of about 475 miles. Annoyingly, right-hand drive 911s can't be specified with the supersized 83 litre fuel tank that you can get in Europe, which would add a useful 150 miles to that. What else? Well, all 911s are covered by the brand's usual 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, and the 911 also has 12 years of anti-corrosion cover and a 3-year paint warranty too. Insurance for a car of this kind, of course, with this power and performance, it's never going to be cheap. All variants come in at a top of the shop Group 50 rating. Still, residual value percentages are uber high. Think in the upper 50s after 3 years of ownership, or even better than that. Do bear in mind that depreciation will take a bit of a hit if you load the car up with too many unnecessary extras. There's a wider dealer network that many rivals can offer, and you'll only need to visit your local Porsche centre every 2 years or every 20,000 miles, whichever comes around first. There is no option to buy into a prepaid servicing package at point of purchase, but the brand does provide a fixed price servicing approach, which makes sure that you'll know in advance exactly what work will be carried out on your car and what it's going to cost. Although it looks almost identical to the 911 Coupe when the shapely hood's in place, the 911 Cabriolet is a car that, in 992 series form, has emerged from the hardtop model's shadow as an entity in its own right. And in this updated 992.2, guys, it's even better. It's a more convincing convertible car than ever before. Plus, the sleek profile is matched with greater technology and a more luxurious interior. As with the coupe model, Porsche's banking on the fact that the excellence of this car will help to simplify the decision over whether to commit to the significant outlay involved in actually buying it. With this much style matched to this much substance though, you'd have to be tempted.